thank you all for joining the Compliance Alliance and also visiting our site and checking out our webinar today. My name is James Frankham, and I'm the CEO of GxP-CC. And together with Arpita Sundaria and many of our other colleagues, we work hard to give you webinars on the newest topics and on the hottest topics in the compliance environment. You could visit us on our webpage, you can visit us on our YouTube channel, and you can also see us on our blog, which is on our webpage, where we actually post every week a topic interesting to the GxP compliance environment. So you'll see we have various blog entries and a lot of blogs and a lot of blog topics that are really interesting, also in the area of AI, but also in many other fields. And you'll also see that we have our webinars, which you'll be noticing there's one every single month. So today in our August webinar, we do understand that it's a vacation period. So Arpita and myself are actually calling you from different parts of the world. So we're really excited to have such an international team with you together and share this time together. So what we're going to be talking about today is harnessing AI's potential, really looking at what's going on in the AI environment and kind of giving an overview of how AI is functioning and what are some of the topics that are out there in AI. And without further ado, I'd really like to introduce you to my colleague Arpita Sundaria. She's the one who put this presentation together. She also has various blogs on the topic, and I think you'll find today's session to be extremely interesting. So please, let's start off the webinar. Again, use the chat function. It will be read, it will be monitored, and we'll also be running a few polls as well. Arpita, over to you.
Thank you, James, for this introduction. And I'm really happy with this for hosting this webinar with you, James, and on this topic especially because AI is coming up a lot and has a huge potential. And we all know about the potential and using the AI tools in our daily life and can see how it is revolutionizing it. But in the terms of these regulated industry, it already have a different perspective. So I'm really excited to go through this session with all the people and really happy. Please put your interactive chats, messages, or question in the chat session, and we will look into it. And thanks for joining this webinar. James, do you want to start with the poll first?
I think that's a great idea, Arpita. Thank you. We have a few polls open for you. I'm going to start off one of the polls. It's going to pop up on your screen. Just pick one of the answers, the one that best fits to you, and let it know. It's an anonymous poll, so we don't see who answered what, but we do have a percentage at the end that we'll be able to see who, how many of you are beginners or intermediates or advanced or experts within the field of AI. This helps us gauge a little bit how we're going to run today's session and how deep we want to get into certain topics. So I've started the poll. It should be appearing on your screen. Again, please just pick one of the four options. If you don't see a poll or you don't see an option that fits, just do please let me know in the chat window, and then I can make sure that your systems are working the right way. So I do see that we have a few answers already coming in. And Arpita, what I'm going to do is I'll just let you know that we have 75% have voted intermediate. So for your session, please don't dive into the expert level. But we have 25% at the beginner level and 75% at the intermediate level. That should give you a good overview to start.
That's already very interesting, James, I would say, because having the intermediate knowledge of AI in this current time is already really good. And it's a really good poll, and I can see we have a mixed population, so we will go in the in this presentation from some basics to the application part. And I would say, how about we actually start with our presentation slowly and look into. So in this presentation, we wanted to see how the harnessing AI potential, how we can harness the potential of AI in the pharmaceutical and healthcare environment. And before we actually deep dive in this topic, let's first go with very basic thing. What is artificial intelligence? And with this, we can actually already know. So artificial intelligence term usually come from intelligent machines. These are systems which are simulation of human intelligence processes by machines, and especially the computer system. And we have these daily tools nowadays where we can see the computers system, all the machines are able to do tasks which are like learning, reasoning, problem solving, and even understanding the language. So these artificial intelligence enables machines to mimic human-like behaviors and decision making. And we can say that it has the potential to revolutionize various industries, whether it's finance, manufacturing, and I would also say healthcare and pharmaceutical. Then what about the machine learning? So we can think machine learning as a subset of AI. So let's put it in this way that it is a method through which computers can learn from data and improve their performance on specific tasks over time. And these systems are not explicitly programmed. These systems actually use algorithms where the data will be analyzed, they will identify patterns and make predictions or decisions. So we can say in essence, machine learning empower computer to learn from experience and adapt to new information. Isn't this like how we actually learn? So like how human learns from their interaction with the world? I think this is how the concept of AI is also designed. In this in the presentation today, in the webinar, we will unravel the layers of AI and ML with the discussing their application, benefits, as well as what would be the best practices for implementing AI or ML. If there are, and again, if there are any questions, please feel free to write in the chat, or if there are new ideas that you also want to share, go ahead and add it to the chat section. Now, I would say, let's turn our attention to the current landscape and some remarkable examples where we are heading with the AI. So, the integration of AI and machine learning into healthcare and pharmaceuticals has been a game changer. And I would say that they are going to revolutionize the way how we approach the patient care, drug discovery, and even more. And what we can see here already that one noteworthy indication of this transformation is what is the proactive stance of the regulatory bodies. Here you can see on the slides already that the FDA has been actively addressing the role of AI and ML in the field of medical devices, drug manufacturing, also the drug discovery. And they have published white papers over this. And what is truly remarkable actually is its open call for public feedback. You can see here that these discussion paper call with the request for feedback. So now even the regulatory bodies recognizes the importance of collaboration and seeks input from stakeholders, whether it's industry experts, healthcare professionals, and the public. And this, they want to help to shape the regulatory framework for the AI and ML in these particular sectors. And now we can see that this is a clear indication how regulatory agencies are actively adapting to this evolving landscape and encouraging a constructive dialogue about these technology and healthcare domains. But this initiative is not only in the regulatory agencies, but are also taken by the industry front. So there are many industry or many companies, I would say, are either harnessing or looking forward to use the power of AI and ML to drive innovation and advancements. And these instances actually represent just a glimpse of the exciting developments happening at the intersection of the artificial intelligence and machine learning, as well as in the healthcare and pharmaceuticals.
Arpita, I think one interesting thing that we can bring in here is I was speaking on a session in DIA just a few months
Mhm.
ago in Boston, and there were a lot of sessions. It was over 250 sessions, and AI was one of the main features of the event, AI and ML. And they had regulators from all over the world. They had FDA, they had EMA, they had MH, they had many different regulators that were there. And there was one answer that they always seemed to harmonize when someone asked in the audience, well, how do I do this or how do I do that? And that one answer was in unison, it depends. So it seems that the regulators have all gone to a consulting class to learn how to kind of avoid directly answering a question. But on the other side, I think it does show that the regulators and the industry is moving forward and moving together in unison in these question sessions and in these frequently asked questions, as well as in these white papers that are coming out there. So we I can agree. We see a lot of questions coming up. We had one question from the audience. What are the current industry standard groups for AI? And I think I can field an answer to that question right now, and then I'll let you continue, Arpita. The PDA, Parental Drug Association, they have a special interest group for AI. The ISPE also has a special interest group for AI, as well as the DIA. They also have now developed multiple special interest groups for AI and ML. So as you can see, the different industry associations that you may want to choose from, they're all good, and they all have their own special interest groups that are working together based on these white papers and based on the industry information that has been made publicly available. So as you can see on our PITA slide, these are actual white papers that have been issued out, and they very much are in commenting where the FDA is asking, please, industry, let us know what you think about that. I hope I was able to answer your question. And like I said, DIA, PDA, as well as ISPE, all three of them have industry groups working together with the regulators to help clarify what it depends on. So to get away from the question or from the answer of it depends to really going to a substantial answer. Arpita, back to you.
Thank you, James. And I completely concur with you. And I think the collaborative approach what FDA took into these feedback and in the white papers, this is already paving a good way towards the regulations. And you can also see the feedbacks what is provided on those white papers have a huge knowledge associated with whether the application of AI or what they see should be the considerations. And while we go to the next slide, this is again the our topic where we see the prospective AI applications. And I would say with the current scenario today, these are maybe prospective, but some might be also using it in today's sessions. And these are just an example. There could be many others. So where we can see the AI or ML system coming into the picture, let's say in a drug manufacturing or in healthcare industry or the sectors. So one of this is the trend monitoring. So the potential of we can use the potential of AI to monitor and analyze trend. Just imagine the AI systems that continuously examining the consumer complaints, they identify the patterns that could signal emerging issues. And similarly, AI could also analyze trends in the good manufacturing practices, warning letters and deviation reports. In the previous slide, I also showed how Amgen is using this for deviation reports. And this can help us to pinpoint the cluster problems and provide these problematic areas where we can work more efficiently and already can take some proactive correction actions. The other topic that could harness its capability is the supply chain optimization. It is like demand forecasting, inventory management, and even transport route optimization. And once we use AI in these kind of the processes, we can ensure a more efficient and streamlined distribution process. This means our time deliveries are shortened, they are regular, we have reduced waste, so a sustainable supply chain and a more responsible supply chain that adapts to the changing demands. The other use that we can think is in the visual inspection and process monitoring. Visual inspection is anyway a critical aspect of quality control. And just imagine that AI-powered visual inspection systems can actually enhance accuracy and consistency, and it can ensure that products meet the highest standards of acceptability. And why we can think of? Because AI can actually monitor various stages of the manufacturing processes, can identify anomalies and deviation in real time. And therefore, we can have a huge contribution towards the product quality assurance. But if we are using AI ML system, or if we are implementing, we need data and there will be a huge amount of data that will be produced. So with this ever increasing volume of data, we also need an effective data management. And here also we can utilize the potential of AI by integrating data submitted in various formats and performing data quality assessment. So this not only enhances the data integrity, but it also empowers us to extract the meaning behind the data and the diverse data sources, which may take like a huge time and effort for the classical systems. And last but not the least, as we already saw in the, or can be read in the white papers, they can have a huge potential in the regulatory compliance and automation. So we can imagine AI systems streamlining regulatory compliance by automatically generating documentation, tracking changes, and ensuring adherence requirements. So this will not save time, but also minimize the risk of errors and oversights, what we generally see in the warning letters or happens sometimes with the mistakes. Um, and these FDA papers, yeah, go ahead, James.
Yes, I think one of the key elements that you've talked about here as well is that it's not only AI. It's not that I just, let's say, click and connect, right? It's not just a plug and play. It's not something I just turn on and then it's done and it's there. There's underlying data frameworks. There's underlying architectures to be considered, things such as data integrity, security, who's going to make the ultimate decisions. Is a human involved in the process? And right now, a lot of these examples that we're seeing in the market, and also within the industry, they are very much in the supportive function. Right, so we're not talking about fully taking over quality decisions. We're talking about preparing information, going through vast quantities of information to see if we can identify trends or repetitive points or other situations that need a closer look. So again, AI is right. That's kind of one of the things that we can say. It's not just I plug it in and then I don't have to worry about my job anymore. I can reassign 20% of my staff. It's really helping to focus on the hot topics and on the areas that need the most review. Would that summarize it correctly?
That's correct, James. And also, since these systems also need to be regulated, as we are talking about the healthcare and the pharmaceutical department. So I think we are not in the regime of using the systems which are completely automatic, but these are exceeding the potential of the systems what you are using at the time. So this can provide the results which can be better what the classical systems we are in use, not comparison to the human, but to the systems.
Thank you, Arpita. We did get another question from the audience. Is it required to validate AI as per CSV approach? So as per using the computer system validation approach. We have a few slides on that in just a few minutes, but to answer your question, yes, you need to validate any component or any system or any technology that you're putting into place, and you need to validate it for the intended use. So similarly to the discussion that we were just having, if the intended use is to help support and review a vast quantity of documents, or to look for trends, or to conduct a visual inspection, those are various different intended uses. So when you conduct the validation, you really want to make sure that you're validating that system for the intended use. But Arpita, I think we have a few more slides on that. I'll just back to you.
Yes, that's correct. And I think we can go sequentially up to that point. So we talked about the implementation of AI ML system, but the implementation of AI ML system needs an understanding of the phases and defining the life cycle of these systems. The second edition of GAMP has already underlined the phases and activities undergoing in these phases. So the first phase or the initial phase is the concept phase. And the foundation of our machine learning subsystem is laid in this phase. Here we already start with a clear understanding of the problem which we want to solve. And from there, we define the scope, objective, and the expected outcomes, what we really want. So what the system is intended to do. And in this process itself, the initial data would be identified. And this initial data is important for our machine learning model. And it is also important that we make sure that this data, what we are going to use, has a quality, integrity, and relevance. So you will see in the coming slides how much data is important in the terms of AI and ML system. And the success of our entire machine learning endeavors are dependent of this data. That's why we will see how in the coming slides how we deal with this. Also, the data management starts with this phase. It keeps going on, but we start the first part here itself. Moving into the project phase. So this is the place where we embrace the incremental and iterative approach. And here our model design and selection take central stage. And here we engineer a machine learning model carefully, considering the features, the algorithm, what we will use, the architectures, and so on. And then becomes the crucial step of model training, where our system learns from the data and fine-tune its capabilities. There we can already see the difference because here the data has to be divided into three sets, which is the test, validation, and training sets, which is really, really important to ensure the system's reliability and generalization. If we are using any AI or ML system, the, it is crucial that we understand which data we can utilize multiple times versus which data we can utilize only once here. And in this process, then the rigorous testing, evaluation, hyperparameter tuning followed. And this iterative process helps us refine our model performance and ensure that it aligns with our defined objectives. And finally, we come into the operation phase, which is the continuous monitoring and improvement. So finally, as we transition into the operation phase, the machine learning system goes live. So this is our part where it is in the prod. And this phase is characterized by continuous monitoring and evaluation. And in this system, we actively assess the performance of our ML system. This is not, so once the system come in operation, that doesn't mean we stop there. For the AI and ML system, we need to continuously assure that it is meeting the predefined quality standards. And this involves regular quality checks to identify the areas of improvement. And to maintain the integrity of our model, we have to continuously feed it with the relevant and updated data. So we can already say that the framework provided by GAMP in this life as the life cycle is already a holistic approach from the conceptualization of problem with the careful data management through iterative model development and finally testing. And after testing, once it comes into the operation phase, then we have continuous monitoring and improvement of the operational system.
Arpita, I
So,
think this is a great point to put in a poll, just for the audience to kind of see how do you feel about validation of your current AI solutions? Is it something that you're uncertain about the process, or you feel very confident within it? Kind of like the extremes there. I put a poll in as well, just like we did the last one. Please feel free to put in a poll results, and then we'll talk about those as well. I think also one of the things that we really enjoy is, as being an active member in DIA and being an active member in PDA and an ISP, we actually have a chance to participate in these groups. So really working with a lot of experts in the expert groups to get a great understanding. And Arpita, exactly what you were mentioning here. So ISP brought out GAMP5, and they also brought out GAMP5 in second edition. And within there, they actually have a few interesting chapters on how to handle AI and ML validation and interesting approaches. So they're really trying to be riding the wave of change and not just get wiped out by it when it does come. One of the sayings as they go is you can't stop the wave, but you can always learn how to surf. And so ISP's done an excellent job on that in their GAMP5 second edition. Also, what you can look forward to is in the DIA. The PDA. Sorry, the PDA always brings out technical reports. They bring out like TR80 and TR84 and things like this, and they also have an expert group on the topic of validation of artificial intelligence and machine learning areas. So also there, be on the lookout for a future technical report coming out. And if we look at the poll, just to look at the poll reports right here, we can see we have a very good mix here. So we have 44% who are uncertain or just starting off with AI systems. Another 44% who has some knowledge on it, but would really like to dig in deeper, and 11% familiar with the validation principles, and of course looking to enhance the skills. And I noticed we also had a question here that came in. And this one is directly for you, Arpita. What is the difference in the three types of data sets, test data, training data, and validation data?
Oh, that's a really good question, James. So what happens is the training and validation data are used for training the AI or machine learning model. So first you provide your training data where you will train your model, and then you will provide another data that which is called validation data, so that you can check how this is going. Until then, it is only going in the iterative process of training. Once you finish this whole part, then you have your test data, which evaluates your AI model. And therefore, it is really important that you have different data sets to test, train, and validate. Just imagine if you are giving an AI model a similar example or similar data to the test as well as training, then you will always have a model which is 100% successful. You put into this in practice, and suddenly a new data came up, and this will crash. So that's why dividing these data set is really crucial. I hope I answer your question. Is there anything here, James, additional do you want to add?
Thank you, Arpita. No, I think that did a great job of answering the question, and also thank you to the audience for using the Q&A function. So if we didn't answer it, or if you have a follow-up question again, please feel free to put it in. We love to have these interactive sessions. Thank you. Back to you, Arpita.
Okay, and also continuing with this question, because we are talking about data, and the data is something which is important to train the AI ML model. It is also, these models are also going to generate a lot of data. So there are these questions come up how the data will be handled. And some key question that can arise is what would be the mechanism of data management when we are thinking about AI or ML systems? How do we handle the data during the whole life cycle? And what are the key aspects of these data? So I think we can now dig into the data management, which is a cornerstone for successful AI and ML implementation. So here we have to repeat, but this is very important topic that we have to maintain and ensure the integrity and quality of our data. This is really crucial. And we are guided by a core principle. This principle anyway underpins data management, emphasize the importance of maintaining a clear record of data's journey from collection to analysis. In addition to this, we also have to maintain the versioning of data. So the versioning of data preserves the historical context. And this, with these versioning, we can also track changes, like how the data goes, the whole life cycle of data, and how it develops over time. This is also important that we preserve the meta information of these data and safeguard and we preserve the meta information of this data and another layer to our data story. So this complete our data. In addition to this, we should also think about storing, keeping the data secure and handling it. And this should be taken care when we are storing the data as well as transmitting it. So they should be safe against any breach or any unauthorized access. And we talk about the splitting of data, but the data what we are going to use of the training, it is also important that we use diverse and extensive data set. This can ensure that our model generalizes well into real world scenarios. This is also one more thing that that will come with these AI ML system, that when we have this huge amount of data going in for the training and coming out, these sheer volume of generated data will need a centralized repository or a cloud service. And therefore, we will need these storage part to keep our data safe. But just assume that you have such a huge amount of data, and this is also a responsibility. So to keep the data safe, we also need a robust IT security framework. I would say it is also good to visualize how the data is following in the data management concept. So translating data into tangible processes is vital. And here the data flow diagrams can help us. So a data flow diagram maps out how data travels within your system. And these diagrams aids in translating these concepts into SOPs, creating a structured approach of data management. And with these more towards the data, I think there is a very critical point, and this is cultivating a culture of data excellence. So we need to have these clear roles and responsibilities where every team member, whether data scientist or analyst, administrator, whatever their role is, they play an important role in maintaining the data integrity and quality and feel responsible towards it. So this is the part what we can look into the data management, but we also have to select the data. And for selecting a data, we should think about few considerations. So what is actually the source of the data we are using? Is it coming as an internal? Does this data belong to our organization? Or it is an external or bought one? What are the privacy and control associated with it? Are we allowed to use it? What are the structure and format of these data? Are they variable or in single format? Additionally, the segmentation also empowers us to focus on relevant subsets that align with our objectives. So we can say from this that the data management forms the backbone of successful AI and ML endeavors. Uh, Whether it's the start to deployment, we have to work very carefully on data handling, which can enhances the reliability and effectiveness of the model we are going to use. So it's not just about managing data. It is also about harnessing its potential to drive meaningful insights and advancements in the healthcare and pharmaceuticals. So in the AI ML, so you can already see how important our data is. But there is another part which is also very critical whenever we are implementing any system in a regulated environment. And this is risk management. I really like this picture because this is a game which we all have played once in our time. And we all know that there are certain blocks when we start removing them, we know that it will not affect the whole structure. It will stay there. This is not critical. But we reach at certain point after removing these blocks that we already know that this system is going to collapse soon. And this is also how we think about the risk management as well. We know the system which we are using have some inherent risk, but we accept those inherent risks because with the practice of implementing the system, we got to know that achieving zero risk is unattainable goal. And as we move to the complex systems in the healthcare and pharmaceutical, risks are inherent to it. So instead of going to the zero risk part, we focused our interest and therefore we shifted towards identifying these risks, assess them, and manage those risks that we ensure we have patient safety, product quality, and regulatory compliance. And this risk management, what we usually do is a systematic process. It begins with identifying the potential risk and evaluating their impact, what these risks or what failures can actually cause to us. And once we identify this, our objective becomes to reduce this risk to an acceptable level up to we can tolerate it and ensure the well-being of patients and the integrity of product. So now we come on to the topic of risk tolerance, which is also central to the risk management. And this refers to the acceptable level of risk that an organization is willing to take. And if we consider AI and ML in healthcare and in pharmaceutical, risk tolerance is not only about financial implication. It takes into account the patient safety, product quality, data integrity, and regulatory compliance. I would say they have a huge role there that whenever we are thinking about the impact of a risk or risk management, these considerations have to be there so that we come to a balance that we have we have this balance in making informed decisions regarding the risk mitigations process.
Arpita,
And yeah, go ahead,
there's a
Jay.
question. There is a question that came in from the audience, and I think it does fit very well also within this risk context, especially when we're training the models and
Mm-hmm.
putting different data in the models. So the question here is, in case the algorithm has to process personal data, so personal identifiable information, things like my name and address and my blood type and my test results, positive or negative. So in case the algorithm has to process personal data as part of its intended use, how do we manage privacy concerns? And I think that's a very good point also when we look at the risk management and the acceptable level of risk.
Yes, that's correct, James. Especially with the GDPR rules we have. I think this is a very good question, I would say, because if we are using those systems, we have to follow it through the GDPR rules. And here we will have some global regulations as well as country specific rules. So the system should follow. And when we are putting risk towards or thinking about the risk, we have to see if how we also mitigate it such a way that the country specific rules are also not getting affected.
And I think that's a great response, Arpita. Thank you. As the take home point is really the rules don't change because we're using a new tool, right? So there's underlying
Mhm.
governance risk, underlying governance rules in place saying how to handle personal identifiable information, and how to handle personal healthcare information. And we need to make sure to either exclude certain data sets in the model, or make sure that data privacy concerns are built into the model to understand who can actually see the data, who can review the data, and what happens to the data while it's being processed in the model. So again, I hope we were able to answer that question, and thank you for bringing it in. Arpita, back to you.
Thank you, James. And now just we saw the risk management, which is the common practice we actually do for all the systems that we implement. But there is now going to be a new thing that comes up with the AI and ML system. But before we go to this part, let's try a very simple example to train an AI model to identify a cat. This is going to be really funny, but we can imagine how things might be going in the complex system. So let's say that we have some data and we provide some data to the AI model. So to identify a cat, we give some identifiers to the AI model. And we say that a cat is someone who has whiskers, two eyes, 2 ears, two paws. It can hunt and also has a tail. So we provided some identifiers and then we ask our system to say, give another data and ask, is this a cat? And as a human, we already know the answer. But just imagine with this particular data set, what will be an AI or a machine learning model will answer. And what went wrong in this whole perspective? Because we provided the data with all the identifiers of the cat. And this is what we have to take care when we are thinking about a AI and ML model. This is the concept of bias. So now we can delve into the strategies and considerations and understanding and mitigating bias to ensure a fairness and accuracy in AI and ML. So what was wrong in the data what we gave? I think the first thing was our data was not diverse, was not extensive. We gave very few examples there. And if we want to implement AI or ML, one of the foundation steps is data selection and governance. And it is really crucial that we aim for data set that is diverse and non-biased. Not only that, our goal is to avoid any skewed representation that may lead to some undesirable outcome. So we have to ensure that our data is free from bias from any region or demographic. And once we have this kind of data, then we can expect a trustworthy result. Um, Addition to this, we also have to know what was the origin of bias. We need to dig a little bit deeper to understand its origin. Is it stemming from an erroneous assumption we made? We have to identify these root cause to address bias effectively. Not just origin of it, we also have to identify and monitor potential bias. So it's not that the bias can come only during the training part of the model. It can creep in over time when you are implementing or things like that, even when you are feeding the new data to it. And I think most of the time it's also unintentional. Therefore, it's imperative to regularly monitor and review our models for potential bias. And what can help us there are the periodic assessments, which can help us catch and rectify the emerging biases. And this will ensure us that the AI and ML system we are using are fair and unbiased and will also remain similar. So, in addition to that, we also have to think about when we are testing the system, there should be a considerable time provided to the testers. We are in a life where things has to be quick and fast, but in the AI time, we have to find out what steps need ample amount of time. Even after doing all these things, it is important to know that we cannot eliminate bias entirely. So our goal should be to identify the source of bias and then reduce them to an acceptable level. And with these, we can enhance the fairness and reliability of our applications. The other steps what we can take is basically strengthening governance and data culture. So to truly use our system, we must go beyond the minimum requirements. We have to strengthen our governance practices and ensure that we are doing the bias management in every step. And here again, data culture or promoting a data culture within the organization will be very crucial in terms of AI ML. So establishing new rules for data handling and management, ensuring that bias management becomes an integral part of our AI and ML journey. So I would say that even the bias management is not a one-step process. This is an ongoing commitment that demands vigilance. And the roles, so the people who are working with that should be accountable and dedicated to fairness. And when we prioritize diverse and non-biased data, when we work on understanding the origin of this bias, and proactively work on identifying the potential bias, we can find a way to find something that is acceptable in our systems. And with
Arpita, also a great question that just came in, and I think it fits very well to this slide. What data governance controls should be in place for validating AI applications?
So these are mostly related to the data management we talk about, which is keeping the data integrity and quality of the data, and how your storage is, the meta information we have to keep, the versioning of the data. So these are the important few data governance I can count here.
Thank you. Thank you, Arpita. And also thank you to the audience member for that question. Great. Thank you. Arpita, back to you.
And I think this is the question that also came about the validations of these systems. And of course, we know that validation of a system is very crucial for in the pharmaceutical and regulated environment. We have to prove that the system is working how it is intended to work without compromising any regulatory compliance, patient safety, and product quality. In our industry, it is very crucial that we keep the accountability because we are working with the patients' lives. And these products, whatever are in the production, are also going to reach either humans or animals. And therefore, the validation considerations are very important to ensure the reliability, accuracy, and integrity of our technological system. So let's look what kind of system we actually have. So we have our classical non-AI systems, which we are used to and working with most of the time. Another is the validation static ML system, and I would say the highest would be the validation dynamic AI ML system. So if you think about a classical non-AI system, there the foundational so we already have the validation strategy for this. And we know that this involves a rigorous process to confirm that the system meets its intended use and perform as expected. So our focus lies in ensuring that system consistently produce accurate and reliable outputs. And for these, we have documented validation protocols, testing, and verification procedures in place. So this is we usually do for all these systems which are in the regulated environment, computer systems. If we go towards the validation of static ML system, here our validation consideration extend to not only to the system but also the data it relies on. So here we delve into data acquisition and annotation, and we ensure that these supervised learning techniques yield accurate and label data set. And validation of the system also has a robust change management so that it becomes important that the ML model remains aligned and keep on working or has fulfilling its intended purpose. And last but not the least, these dynamic AI ML systems are the ones with the highest complexity. Therefore, the stakes are also higher. Here we have unsupervised data usage, which needs an enhanced focus on validation. So here we need to have a regular or robust performance evaluation on regular time. We also have to keep a close eye on how the system evolves over time. And additionally, to mitigate risk, we need to have additional controls there, which we can monitor and manage the system behavior. So you can see this is the place we might have to think about the places where human intervention can also come in to ensure that we are going in the right direction and these systems are not implementing what they are not supposed to do. But in all these cases, we need the documentation process. So accurate, well-documented validation protocols and procedures will be our guiding light, which ensure that every step we take is transparent, repeatable, and aligned with the regulatory requirements. So this is really critical. We think about all these documents, all the process, and also consideration before using or implementing these systems. And as you can see, these validation vary based on the nature of the system. So whether it's classical ML or dynamic ML, depending on it, we also have to increase the extent of validation and the controls in place.
Arpita, this is great. Thank you. This is a very great overview. We did get one more question, and unfortunately, this is going to be our last question for the day because we're almost at time. This means that this session has just flown by so fast. But maybe we could still show that and maybe a context, I would say. So the question is, what are these additional controls in dynamic machine learning? So what are the additional controls? However, instead of going into control by control, maybe we can also highlight what is a great source of reference to read up on this to further understand if you want to dive deeper into these things?
I think
Where could our audience? Yes.
Yeah, go ahead,
Where could our
James.
audience go to learn more about the different controls?
I would say the paper, which was recently published by Peter Baker, could be a good option. Peter Baker and Ulrich, and also one of my colleagues. The other would be going into the GAMP guidelines. But this is the system which is not yet much explored as well. This has to be think about. So this is the part where the white papers of FDA can also give some insights and their feedbacks, because this is the part which is in the exploration and people are thinking about it. I think these could be some guidelines and some recent papers what we can go. Also in the PICS, PICS is more about the data management, but this is also a good to check when we look about the controls for the data management, I would say.
Okay, thank you, Arpita. So I just put I tried to put the link into the chat here. So it's on Bioprocess Online. That's where you can actually find that paper. I'm not sure if that link works, but if you do go to Bioprocess Online and you look for that title, Preparing a Framework for Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning Validation, it's a published paper and it has some information on that. And let me see if I can get the hyperlink in as well for all of you. There you go. That should work. If you just click on that link, that should take you directly to the paper. So with that, we're about 2 minutes out. I do want to thank you all for your participation today. This was great. This really shows how fast these sessions somehow, time flies when you're having fun. And I do want to thank you all for that. We have one more poll to close it up today. And this poll is actually about what would you like to see next from one of the upcoming webinars. So we always have a lot of interesting topics out here. But this poll in particular, would you be interested in learning more about data integrity, a repeat of this topic, or a little bit of a further dive in AI, ML validation? Would you like us to dive into cybersecurity and data protection, or also dive further into quality culture? So if you just let us know what's on your agenda, we can gladly make sure that we can get the main points out there. And astonishing here, 86% of respondents have said AI/ML validation. So Arpita, I think we're going to have a series on here, and we're going to have a couple of webinars on this. So with that, maybe you want to close it up. Thank you all for participating. And
Yes,
Arpita,
it was.
I'll give you the final statements. Yes.
Thank you, James. And it is also really good to know that we have so much demand of these systems, and it is undoubtedly that this is coming as the future. And with this, I would also like to end that it was a great session. Really enjoyed doing it. Very good questions there. And I leave you with these three main key takeaways for the session. And looking forward to see you around and getting know all other points from your side. Thank you all for joining the webinar.
Thank you all for joining the Compliance Alliance. Take care, and we wish you all a great week. Thank you.